Welcome to the Navigating Magic podcast, where we explore the connection between intuition, spiritual health, and your superconscious via conversations, interviews, and storytelling. Natasha teaches you how to generate change through your attention to energies, truths, and processes that are invisible to others. Together, we will explore the interplay between alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. I'm your host, Natasha. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next episode. I'm so excited today to bring you Adele from Wag Wellness in the Central Coast. This may be new to you, but Adele is a canine remedial massage therapist. So welcome, Adele. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity as well.
You're welcome. I guess I reached out to you because I'm a big animal lover, and we can honestly say that there's a lot in our in the four-legged world, in the from a fur baby perspective and being a fur parent, that we're not necessarily aware of in mainstream society. And I know you and I have had conversations back and forth over the years about things that aren't necessarily working, that need to change. And so firstly, I do want to congratulate you on starting this business named Wag Wellness. It's Wag Wellness, sorry.
No worries.
It's such a genius concept. So what made you go down this path?
Yeah, I think it's to my boy Dachshunds. A lot of Dachshunds are known to get IVDD, so it's a disc disease. It's a herniated disc, and it can cause, for example, a lot of pain, and then also maybe lameness as well. My dog underwent surgery, and when he got out, there was no information as to how to do the rehabilitation with the particular dog, knowing that you have to crate visit, you keep them in the crate, but there was no expansion as to how to make sure when they get out and they start walking, what are the factors that need to be considered. So how do I pick up my dog? Is there any muscle groups that may take strain, because it might be the fact that he's not allowed to jump, or if he's jumping onto, for example, a couch, how do we mitigate that the injury won't happen? So I've done a lot of research. There is a lot of help when you do, like, for example, human physio and going into a master's degree in animal studies where you can do rehab. But there was nothing for like me and you to be able to study it. And I come across this lady in Melbourne who's doing this course. And then I decided that I'm going to try and do it because I really want to try and actually see the impact of it and actually how I can help my dog and other dogs as well. And that's why I did this particular course, the canine Remedial Massage Therapy.
That's incredible. It's so amazing because you're using your lived experience and you're coming from a place of passion and love. And I'm going to assume that you had results with your own dogs.
No, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, yeah, absolutely. Because you could see from taking strain, whether, like, for example, if you hurt your ankle, there's a lot of strain and muscles around it. So the same aspect is I could actually start massaging him and he can be more relaxed. And that also from the surgery, the rehab actually minimized the recovery process. So that was quite helpful in that regard as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting because, like you said, you're invested in your dogs, and no pet ownership comes without its cost in our modern day world. And obviously for the average person, you're putting all your trust in the vets. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of vets are in the profession because they're amazing at what they do, and we've got some amazing vets that we deal with our bunny rabbits, and we love them, like we adore them. But when push comes to shove, there's a lot that we can be doing at home in order to prevent vet visits to begin with.
No, absolutely. Yeah, sorry to jump in. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on that. And I think it becomes where we need to educate people, because I think as a pet owner, there's limited educational aspects around it to ensure that you mitigate any risk, to your point, just to go to a vet.
Yeah. I think around us in society, a lot of people now are starting to join the dots because of the obvious, number one, financial aspects. Number two, I'm speaking from experience, we can say that the vet industry is a sub-branch of the pharmaceutical industry. I'm going to go there because it's an obvious thing. We're all thinking it, we all know it, and it's sometimes to the dog, the cat, the rabbit, it's to their detriment.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'll talk about a case study where I spoke to a particular guy who's got a Kelpie. He's got a laxating patella. So what it means is that your patella shift. It's similar to an individual. And what happens is that when the dog runs, it will hop. So you will see it. This particular guy went to the vet, and the vet said, well, let's get it into surgery and let's get it done. Now, to your point, costly. It's very expensive. It's over $5,000. The other aspect is the vet didn't actually mention the fact, let's look at option B and do maybe go either to a canine remedial massage therapist to actually look at it. Because again, when you look at canine remedial massage therapists, they just don't go in there and massage. It's not like you're going to relaxing massage. What you do is initial consultation. So you go and you understand the medical history of the dog. You do what they call a gait analysis. So based on how the dog is running or walking, you can then sort of see what the deficiencies are. You also do their muscular assessment, where you actually go through the body of the dog and to validate what muscle groups are very tight or tender, and you start working around it in order to create a treatment plan. So yes, I think the first point of contact for people is to rush to a vet. And yes, the second point is that the vet will always go to a surgical option versus looking at alternative options. I think that's quite important. There are alternative options available.
I read a quote the other day that said something along the lines of what is deemed to be alternative medicine is actually original medicine.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's like the similar perspective of that is if your dog eats, let's say, human food like we do, you give them healthy food like vegetables and meat, that also helps their health. It also helps their health to limit, for example, joint problems versus kibble that's very processed. So again, to your point, that's an aspect that people need to think about as well.
Yeah, it's I know there have been some unfortunate incidences, not just in Australia but around the world, with kibble and particular dog treats. I think more specifically,
Yeah.
causing injury and unfortunately death in some animals. And I don't think dog owners are aware of this.
No, and it's interesting that yes, you're right in that regard. But there's a doctor in America, Dr. Judy Morgan, and she's brilliant. And to your point, she's talking a lot about the kibble and what they don't mention to pet owners, what they put in the kibble, and what the impact is. And actually, recently shown, I think there was probably 10 manufacturers where they need to withdraw the kibble because of contaminated ingredients, you can say in that regard. But also the other aspect is what you just mentioned, is that the adverse reactions on injections on dogs. There are certain things that if you go to a vet, I'm also in the process of doing a vet assistant 2 course. And the first thing they teach you is that if a dog got any sickness, the first reaction is to go for an injection. Now, if you look at Dr. Judy Morgan, she says that let's go first look at the alternative way of doing it. If you think about, not that I'm saying you should do it, but quercetin can be used on dogs.
Wow.
For allergies, etc. There's also, for example, there's a lot of aspects you can use. I won't go into detail, but there is alternatives that you can do before you go into a vet. So I'm not saying you shouldn't not go to a vet. I said there is holistic ways of being approached, and that's becoming more and more prevalent, like gut health. That's important to a dog as well, because it also contributes to other things like, for example, sickness in a dog, joint health as well. So there is a lot of things that, again, going back to what you said, is education.
Yeah, and it really puts you back in the driver's seat, because if you notice there's something wrong with your pet, if you can do anything at home to firstly heal the dog, help them, and then secondly avoid the vet visit, you're winning. You're walking away feeling empowered and having helped your dog, which is the end result that everyone is looking for.
No, absolutely. I think you also prolong their life because, again, you taking it into your own hands. I'm not saying that, that, again, I reiterate that you shouldn't go to a vet, but at the end of the day, it also empowers you to go, I understand my dog better. I understand their needs better. And I understand the fact, what should I do? The biggest problem is the point is that those alternative viewpoints are not familiar to pet owners. It's not out there and people don't see it. Like the resistance, for example, for canine remedial massage therapy is due to the fact that people think that if I got a dog and I feed it, it's enough. But again, it can be from a puppy phase to a senior dog that actually need that assistance. And that's why, for example, like you, if you, like I mentioned, hurt your ankle, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to maybe go to a physio, and it will help you to rehab. Whatever the case is, if you're stressed out, you go into massage therapist. So why not apply the same principle and treat your dogs in that regard?
Yeah. And I know a lot of people sometimes spend more money and will do anything for their dogs, and their
Yeah.
pets. I know my husband and I, we would do anything for our rabbit. It's just the nature of animal lovers.
No, absolutely. That's the thing. You get, so I would make a joke and say, rather if we want to spend, let's say, $100 on an outfit, rather spend that $100 on a canine remedial massage therapist because that's more beneficial. Yes, the dog will look good, but again, you're domesticating the animal, and it's not helping in the essence. Yes, they look pretty and you can showcase them, but there's more benefit if you spend that $100 in the long run on your pet, if it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So fascinating. And it's good to have like people like you spreading awareness and educating others, because I'm sure with your clients, they've been amazed at what you've been able to do for their dogs.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and and that's the thing, is that you want to showcase that in the long run. And I think once you've got the benefit of showing that in the long run, that will be cool because that will create more awareness. Because the other aspect to that is when you've got an injury and you can see the benefit of actually that not having that injury, or that you helping to release the tightness, they can see that, oh, there is benefit to the madness to this. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to the kibble conversation, what are the alternative dietary options that dog owners should be mindful of when purchasing food for their dog and then obviously feeding their dogs?
Yeah, I think from a kibble perspective, I would say, I know it's going to sound bad, but don't even buy kibble, because really the ingredients they're showcasing is not a true reflection. And there's done a lot of research around it. And there's also a lot of conversations. There's a lady, Catherine Edwards, also spoke about it with a vet about the particular ingredients. My suggestion would be is, for example, to look at probably they're going to make money out of me, as Leica. Now, Leica is basically, it's sort of proper, it can be kangaroo, it can be lamb or chicken. Based on that, they're working also with a holistic vet, which she's adding, for example, particular herbs and also vegetables. So it's quite a good product. And I would also say that if you can't afford it, there is, for example, again, I want to mention Dr. Judy Morgan. On her Instagram, there's a lot of recipes where she will show you what to add in, for example, the type of food, rice, chicken, pumpkin, that's also good for animals or dogs. So yeah, I would say go that route, investigate it, because yeah, it's probably the better way. And maybe again, if you make it yourself, it might be a cheaper way. Then although kibble is mass produced and looks cheap, the long run it's not good. It's for obesity, and obesity contribute to either that the dog will have strain on their back, that also have an impact on their joints. So yeah, if you want to keep your dog healthy, trying to go the natural route.
That's so interesting, and it's good to, I guess, give a plug to certain companies that are, helping people around the world to better feed their dogs, because we all know how your nutrition is either your poison or your medicine.
Absolutely. And again, that's what you said was brilliant, because it's, if you put poison in your body, what's the impact? It's got an impact on your body and your health. It's got an impact on your joint. And you think about it, in a layman way of saying, is that your joints is sort of like your oil. And if it doesn't flow, it's not going to work. In the same aspect, if you feed the poison to a dog, that they will struggle with their joints, they will struggle with their digestive health. So there's a lot of impact and factors that need to consider. So yeah.
And it's like we have to point to the fact that when a dog is unwell, they naturally go outside, so they get sunlight, they eat some grass if it's available to them, because they naturally know, okay, I've either eaten something that I shouldn't have, or they throw up because they're purging, whatever it is that they've eaten. And there's this innate intelligence about these four-legged creatures where they know that this is part of what they do. In the same regard, like I think it's amazing when animals give birth, whether they're domesticated or wild, they just know what to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I think sometimes we're not aware of that. And to your point, I think people, if I go, what I do is I've tried to follow a lot of, dog owner groups. And to your point, the questions, why is my dog eating grass? Is it okay if my dog vomits? Is it okay if my dog do X, Y, and Z? And I think people are not aware or conscious about the dog's behavior, to your point. Because, like you say, if your dog's got an upset stomach, it's a gut issue, and they will then go eat grass because they're trying to soothe themselves in order to your point, to vomit or have a poo. Now, the same aspect, when a dog's injured, they might, to your point, let's say luxating patella, is that they will jump. And that's a point that people will say, okay, well, maybe I should stop and look, but people are not aware of that. And I think that's the thing. People are not conscious, but they need to become conscious around the pet to see what's happening and interpret it. Because yes, whatever happens to a dog or any animal, they will give you signals. You just need to actually listen to them in a sense. Because if they withdrawn or they're lethargic, it might be the fact, again, it's upset stomach, or they have a neck injury, whatever the case might be. So yeah, I think that's quite important to start for people to notice.
You mentioned an important point, and that is to interpret their behavior.
Yeah.
I think it's so important because I know from like a human nervous system perspective, one of the best things that it's actually our rabbits that have taught me is the concept of shaking.
Yeah.
Dogs do it, cats do it, rabbits do it. I'm sure there are, many animals out there in the wild that do the same thing. So when an animal is upset or something has triggered them or there's a loud sound, they will shake.
Yeah.
That shake helps to regulate their nervous system, and for lack of a better term, they literally shake it off.
Yeah.
And I know from our human perspective, I don't know if you do any shaking.
I'm shaking now.
Whenever I'm feeling, frazzled and something's peeved me off, or I just need to like let loose, it's like this shake. It's like, yep, I've got it. You feel good instantly. It's an instant fix.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely. I was just joking there, but yeah, you spot on. Dogs, from an energy perspective, is that they sometimes, to your point, they will shake the whole body and move. Other thing you will see maybe as well is what they call a passive stretch. They will stretch out, and it looks like a yoga, dog pose they're doing. It's the same aspect. They're just getting release of energy, or basically. But yeah, I totally agree. If you have a shake, it just feels good to release all the tension, anxiety, because that's what you need. And I think that's important, that the way the dogs do it is, again, they would shake it, or they will do a passive stretch, and that's it.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Now, what I love about the concept of your business is that you don't necessarily have to have like an injured dog to come to you. This could be just part of your way of treating your dog for therapy, because obviously the benefits are going to be ongoing, because it's obviously an emotional therapy for the dog along with the physical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing that you just said, is that it's not just about the dog's been injured. It is basically the wellness, because a lot of time, dogs got anxiety. So even if you do sort of an initial consultation and you get understanding of, the history, just giving them a massage, again, if you think about it, it relaxes them. It doesn't mean that the anxieties go away, but it just helps them to get used to certain events that might happen. For example, New Year's Eve and the fireworks. So you start also educating the pet owner as to what to do. And particularly with a dog, there's at the back they call the C1, and if you just take your fingers and you pinch it lightly, you circular motions, it will calm them down. So that's the part. If you do it ongoing, you'll see, I won't say we'll see a change immediately, but with time you'll see a change in the behavior. And I think that's important as well, that the way you do that and do it continuously, it will have in the end run help and will be beneficial to the dog.
And anyone who loves their dog, why wouldn't you want to go down that path and offer this to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of times, again, we come back to education. I think, and I'm going to take an example, is I think probably you're too young for it, but in the 1980s, well, in that area, you know, when the beauty industry opened up, people were talking about massages, but they didn't fully understand it and they couldn't see the benefit. If you go in the future now, where we are, is that people go to massages because they understand it's relaxation, it's enjoyment, etc. Now, the same principle is that we need to get there with the canine remedial massage therapy and the importance of that, because again, from a puppy phase to help them, you know, it might be the fact that a lot of puppies might have hip dysplasia, and in order to start, I'm not saying the vet will rectify it, but then to help them to stabilize the muscles around is to give them a massage. If you keep on progressing it as well, you can assist them with basically prolonging. I'm not saying prolonging the life in the sense that they will, from a health perspective, but prolonging the life in the sense of joint mobility. And I think that's what important, what people need to understand and get educated about. And if they do that, it will really be beneficial to the dog in the long term, because depending on the breed, like for example, Dachshunds, IBDD, if you look at a German Shepherd, they've got a lot of hip dysplasia. So if you start working those things, you might mitigate that before it happens too soon, if it makes sense.
And what I'm hearing from you is that you're just so used to, not used to, sorry, you've become so accustomed to learning about which animals, which breed, I should say, have certain conditions more so than others. So obviously in your experience, you've been able to deal with this, and then you start to notice particular patterns with certain breeds.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certain breeds that are sort of familiar to it as well. So during this whole course, you sort of taught as to what sort of are the main aspects to look out for, because it's quite important. Because as you go on and you do your own research as well, like I'm trying to write articles and publish on my website to also educate people, you will start seeing that there are certain breeds that are familiar to, for example, laxating patella. So they know, because that's what the vets are basically doing surgeries for. So yes, you get accustomed to learn more about what type of dogs will get what type of injuries. And then also what you can do from that regard is start educating that particular dog owners into how to mitigate it. And I think, again, just going back to the previous section, it says that people don't understand and don't listen, for example, to their dogs, because the thing about German Shepherd, there's probably known as these two sort of types. You've got the slope one, that's the old German Shepherd, and they're very known for hip dysplasia. And you've got the one with the straight ones, what they call the new modern German Shepherd, that might be not so prevalent hip dysplasia. And that's what people need to start noticing as well, because differences in dog breeds will contribute to differences of injuries as well, if it makes sense.
And I think people need to do their research when they are adopting or rescuing.
Oh, yes.
Or buying a puppy or a dog, in what is the most common injuries and illness that particular breed can succumb to. So I know my sister-in-law has a lab, and she even got it DNA tested, because she kind of started to think at one point, are you cross Kelpie lab? Just because of her mannerisms, but she got it DNA tested. It's a full breed Labrador. It's a chocolate lab. And she's got urinary problems. And because it's a girl, female, she learned from her vet that this is very common. And so she's on medication.
Yeah.
And I just can't help but think there has to be a more natural way that you can help with the behavior.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that you just said about adoption and stuff. And I think that's the biggest thing, because people, again, I'm going again to education, I'm going to put probably a lot of education onto pet owners and stuff, is that, yes, people I'm fully for adopt, and I would rather go adopt than shop, because there's a lot of animals there. And if I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last year when I read an article, I think there was over 3,000 animals available, especially dogs available for adoption. And what people also got a misconception is that there are puppies within the animal shelter. But just getting back to what you're saying is that people walk into an animal shelter and they see, and I know it's difficult to walk into an animal shelter, but you see this beautiful face and you think, great. And they give you a background, they give you the criteria. The biggest problem is that, to your point, people don't understand, one, the lifestyle fit to them, and secondly, what are the medical implications? If you think about, for example, I think a pug, it's probably the noses. I think the other one is the French bulldog as well. That's breathing problems they might have. You might need to clean it because of bacteria. And that's the thing that people don't understand, to your point. Once they adopted dogs, because it was maybe it caught their eye, but again, from one, what is the medical background? What is the implications, from back, neck, knee, whatever the case is, that people don't understand. And when it happens, they get frustrated. And then when it happens, they need to pay a bill. And then that's an ongoing process. And I think it's also that, again, education should be playing a part, is that when you look at a dog, do your research, understand what can happen to your dog. Dachshunds are definitely known for IVDD, and people just, they just ignore it until it happens. And I've seen a lot of cases in that regard where people go, oh, suddenly my dog's got IVDD. What should I do? So, yeah.
And I'm so curious to know, like, from your perspective, how do you feel about, like, vets, I guess, playing on the emotional vulnerability when you do present to the vets? You're in the consult room, they've diagnosed your pet with a particular condition, and then they hit you. Because I know I've had personal experience with this. Before they even tell you XYZ, the first thing they tell you is it's going to cost this much.
Yeah, and I think there's good vets and there's bad vets. If I could talk from a bad experience, to your point, yes, they think if they throw the money at you, the first thing is to give you a shock, because they want the money up front. And there's the question I got about empathy around, one, your patient, the dog, and also your customers, because I know being a vet is very stressful. It's got the highest suicidal rate as well. But the empathy is quite important. You became a vet, and again, just my perspective is that you became a vet because you wanted to help animals. Now, if you throw in money as a first instance, my question is, why are you doing it? Are you just looking into the money? And understandable, operations are expensive. But I think the aspect is that when the doctor of, and I'm going to also, they probably make money out of being Sash in the North Ride, the doctor that my boy Balti's operation was brilliant. And what he did was he had empathy. He spoke to us, gave us the positives, the negatives, the risk, and then gave us the quote. And that's important, because you need to understand what the implications is before you run into a surgery. And an empathy vet, I think, will go definitely further than someone just want money. I would definitely go for a second opinion.
Of course. Yeah, it's so true. And like comparing us to dogs, like if we ever need surgery from a human perspective, I know there are cases where you do need, emergency surgery. So leaving that aside, but if you ever do need upcoming surgery, you obviously have time to prepare for it. You make an informed decision. But the unfortunate thing is, often with animals, it's an emergency situation where you need to fix it then and there, because making a move, it can be the difference between life and death.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing. So that's, if it's, for example, to your point, I'm going to use IVDD because I'm very familiar to that. There's two types, and also based on, to your point, the urgency, you want to do it ASAP because your dog's in pain. And there you have to make a decision, because again, based on the vet, if they give you the full information and you've gone, for example, for scans and they can show you that, you can make an informed decision, versus if it's a luxating patella, that you can sort of, keep aside for, let's say, a few months because it's not that bad. then you should make a decision based on that to say, okay, what can I do alternatively? And I think that's, again, we spoke about alternative option. And I think that's where the vet should go, okay, we're not going to do surgery. We give you 6 months. We can go take you to a canine remedial massage therapist. We will work with a person. We'll come back and go, okay, we'll assess it, because then we'll decide to do a surgery. And I think that's important, the connection of the pet owner, the massage therapist, and the vet is actually quite crucial, because they actually work hand in hand. They can't work separately. And that's another aspect, is that the canine massage therapists need to understand the medical history before they can jump into anything.
And you're painting a really good picture of, and the fact that like your business name is Wag Wellness. When you come from a wellness perspective, it's you're talking more holistically. And what I really love about what you just said is that you're working with the vet. You're not completely alternative and you say, no, this is the only way and my way is the way. It's like your work complements the vet work and anything that they prescribe. And obviously the fact that you come you know, with your patient not being the dog and then the customer being the human, is you're taking a full medical history background for the best benefit. Because when you as a massage therapist and the vet have the dog's best interest at heart, it has to be a win-win situation.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. If you really love your dog, it will be a win-win situation. If you are willing and open to look at other options and alternative ways, it's a win-win situation. Because again, it's not just jumping in and then you go and you massage and you do it. There's more to that. And that's what I'm saying. It's like you're looking and you're assessing the dog. If you're working with a vet, you can look at the medical history as well. Another aspect as well, from if you're a pet owner and you really want to have it in the best interest of your dog, you will adapt. For example, let's say you will create a ramp based on recommendation from the canine remedial massage therapist, because they also look at that. They look at the surface, they look at the problem, and then also, if need be, if they find that something else is maybe more serious, they will then defer that particular dog to the vet to say, go and do a further assessment, because you can only do so much. And that's why there's sort of a synergy that you need to work together all the time.
So important.
Yeah.
And when you love your I was gonna say when you love your humans, when your babies, you'll do anything for them. So I would love to know how have your dogs been post-surgery, and how often do you massage them? Because I know it can only be therapeutic for you, giving them all that love.
Well, yeah, no, they take advantage. Ball to IVDD, he's doing very well. He gets massages every night and every morning. Then I've got another Dachshund, the Harley. He loves it. He will just fall over for massage. He is the best. He will fall asleep. He thoroughly enjoys it. What I focus on Harley is, for example, he's got a laxating patella, and then also just relaxing because he's got anxiety. So he thoroughly enjoys it. He asks for it. So he will come lie next to me and fall over. And I just need to give him a massage. So he's totally into it. If I made him pay, I could have been made a fortune by now.
I can only imagine. Keep putting it out there. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
That's just so beautiful. I know, like, it's not to compare, but our rabbits love head rubs. And often if I'm just kneeling down next to them, they'll nudge me and for a head rub. And it's just they so know how to take advantage of us, but at the same time, they know how to get their needs met.
No, absolutely. And you know what you said as well, it's actually rewarding as well, because you can see the impact you make. It's also quite nice to see how gentle they are, how they can start relaxing. And when they relax, they fall into a sleep. And I think that's quite amazing, because that's really rewarding. And not than that, it's just because you with a dog. And I'm a big dog lover. And it's just, for me, the best at the moment.
So good. I'm curious, I might go a bit off topic here, but have you heard of homeopathy for dogs?
No.
Okay. So homeopathy, it's the drops of like homeochords.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how to explain it. I'm thinking of I use homeopathy for us, but you can also use them on animals. And so I've started to inquire with some people about using them on rabbits, and they've used them on rabbits, they use them on like guinea pigs, and I know people who use them on dogs and cats with success.
Okay.
So it's a completely natural alternative, and people are getting results and they get them fast. So I was just curious if you've heard of it, because it could be something that could complement your massage therapy, seeming you're coming from that educational wellness perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've never heard of it and never thought about it. But yeah, that's really interesting. I would like to get more information and, and yeah,
Yeah,
bring it into what I'm doing, because I think it's
yeah,
important. Yeah, absolutely.
really would be. I can see it really working.
Yeah,
There's a lady in Perth. Her name is Eugenie Kruger.
yeah,
Can send you her website. She has an amazing website. She's got a private Facebook page. To join her Facebook page, you have to watch a video and then answer some. She quizzes you because she wants to know: are you here,
yeah.
being a peeve, or are you there, because you're serious? And her Facebook page has just so many amazing people who are just willing to help. Like I see people
Mm.
posting questions all the time. My dog has XYZ, what can help, and people are just so happy and willing to provide their experience and expertise with it. So
Yeah.
just thought I'd mention that to you.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. The more we can have a different perspective and the more we can see what is beneficial to us, why not? Because if we always go the medical route, it might not be that beneficial and stuff. So um, I'm all for holistic, and I think it's important because if you go too quick to a drug, it might be more consequences to it than we actually want them to heal, if it makes sense. Because the canine industry in a way is shifting. There's more people looking to holistic ways, and I think that's important to incorporate where you can. Absolutely, I'm open for that.
Yeah. There's also a really big Facebook page now. I think it's got over 5,000 followers. It's called Unvaccinated Pets Australia.
Oh,
Again, like I've learned so much from that group, and just this whole idea that, as soon as you get a puppy, you need to vaccinate them, and you can't take them to the park until they're vaccinated, yada, yada, yada. It's like this, it throws all that indoctrination out the window, because
yeah.
let's be, you have to face big elephant in the room. How did animals survive up until the year, the 1900s, 2000s, before so-called, allopathic medicine came into play?
Yeah, and that's a brilliant thing you bring up, and I'm going to refer to Dr. Judy Morgan as well. I think there's a lot of research to get into people that are open and vets that are open to it. Still, vets are very sort of fixated on old ways of doing, to a point. And just going one step back, is that we domesticated the animals. So to your point, we now need to feed them. We now need to look after them, and we need to make sure that the health is, in the best condition they can be. Again, from just going back to from vaccine perspective, Dr. Judy Morgan is brilliant, and she is spot on where she said, for example, you don't need to vaccinate a dog if it's not needed, or you don't need to vaccinate a dog after certain other vaccines you had. And just coming back to your point, is that two things, like I've read it well, and she also mentioned, is that if you think, for example, parvovirus is a deadly virus, and the first thing they teach you, like I said, I'm doing a vet assist course, is that you take a dog, you get a vaccine. Now, from a puppy, from what Dr. Judy Morgan said, is that between 0 and 6 months is when a puppy is sort of growing, so their immunity is not that great. Now think about it if it's a baby as well, like a human baby. Your immunity changes as you get older, depending on what you put in your body. Not kibble though, but if, let's say, for example, you put from a puppy phase, you give them proper dietary food, it will help the immune system. So if you have a puppy, you want to keep them away from the pet park up to 6 months, because parvovirus apparently is in the sand. And when you're in a park where there's a lot of animals, they scratch and they poo and stuff, and that's also contributing that. So that's the type of things that people are talking about, and that's the type of things that people need to do research. the other aspect is to your point is that, again, there's a particular person who got a Groodle and they paid $7,000, and I took the puppy to get vaccinated, and that puppy died within a few days. Now, that is very sad. But the end result is, if that particular people were educated and actually did some more research to understand, they might still have the puppy. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know the health history. But what I'm trying to say is that if the people looked at an alternative approach, what the outcome would be might be different. But unfortunately, that's the instance what people do. So yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking about, I think contribute to the last 3 years, is the same aspect relevant to my animals to get vaccinated? Because you think about it, we are not educated as pet owners, because the easier way is we take the dog because we're told to do something and we do it. And again, it comes back, let's look firstly, there's holistic nutritionists there, there's holistic naturopaths there. There are some vets are holistic and they're looking at that aspect. So see if you can get hold of them before you just jump into something and get a different perspective on what the approach should be.
So true. Because at the end of the day, you can't help but think like you develop this relationship with your vet.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously it's in the same regard. Your health, it's important. And when it's unknown territory, and I see this more common in new pet owners, new dog owners, they're just going off, maybe what they've seen from others or conversations they have. And so when people aren't informed and they're not aware, then obviously it's, they just go down the mundane path. But we need to start making some noise in this industry, in this area, because the pet industry in itself is one of the biggest I know in Australia, and I know I can say, what happens here happens in the States, happens in Europe. People love their dogs, people love their cats, people love their rabbits, their birds, so on and so forth. So the more we can educate about, coming from a holistic perspective, because let's face it, I don't know anyone who's gone down that holistic path and then regretted it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, because people can see the difference. Do you really want to see your dog, and I'm going to take, for example, jump into surgery and see them in pain before you take an holistic approach of maybe trying turmeric or CBD oil, because that has particularly healing ingredients, versus I'll run to a doctor, get an injection, a cortisone injection that's quite bad for a dog, is even for human bad, because there's a lot of consequences to it. Then, and that's the thing I'm saying, like what you're saying, education. We need to be more verbal about it, because I think people are in such a mundane sort of routine that if something happened, I do X. If X doesn't work, I'll go to Z. And I think the more visibility, in Australia, it's very quiet at the moment. I think a lot of people need to be spoken to over and over to be educated, because the perspective of dog owners as well is that if I take my dog for a walk, I feed him and it goes out to play, I've done enough. If they don't want to sometimes invest money, and I know a particular person, he's got dogs, they don't go into his house, and he doesn't want to invest in money in them. And my question is, then why do you have a dog? Because, at the end of the day, is that a dog gives you inner's love. So give them something back as well. And I know it sounds weird, but I think people's mindsets should change as well, because you have a dog as a companion. You have a dog because you wanted to have a dog. So make sure that you look and start doing your research of alternative approaches, because it's very important. It will have a big impact on your dog going forward.
So true. So beautifully said, Adele. That's so on point there. I would love to know your plans to help educate people more in this arena.
Yeah, I've got big plans. I'm trying to figure it out myself. I'm really trying to, what I want to do is one product that I really enjoy is rosehip vital, and I think there's a lot of benefits. That's the turmeric and helps with joint, etc. So I want to do a research paper, to your point, taking a case study of, say, 5 dogs, 6 dogs, and then over a period to see, the changes, because I think it's important to sort of expose that. And I think that will be entry point, because if you have, for example, your control group versus your, taking people on proper dietary food versus rosehip vital, you can start seeing the benefits. So that's what I really want to do, push out, and I'm trying to get that done, trying to put that in place. And I think that's one, to show them benefit, and two, I really am trying to, well, now publishing articles on my website. But I think for me, the other aspect I want to do is start doing at markets. I know people don't like to be back, but start talking to people and asking questions and doing surveys, because I think we need to stand together. We need to have those difficult conversations. Yes, it's sometimes difficult, but people just turn their back and they reject it because they're not sure about the conversations you're having with them. So that's my perspective. I really want to try to achieve. And I want to try and push it as well, and start also, to your point, reach out to exposing those people I pick up with, holistic, canine nutritionist, Dr. Judy Morgan, show the visibility of the work she's doing. I think is brilliant. I think people will go no, but I think it's brilliant. And start talking about it. And I think what I'm at the moment doing is putting a plan together how to do it, because I really want to do it in a big bang. I know it sounds weird, but I want to make an impact in that regard.
No, I really believe in your cause, and it's one of the reasons, like, I reached out to you to come on here and have a chat, because it's so needed. It's we're on the brink of revolution in so many different areas, and this is one area that if we can get this right, then we'll know we've done something for Mother Earth.
Yeah, and it will be awesome, because we all deserve it, if it makes sense. We all need something more holistic, more from a wellness perspective, because, at the end of the day, if we rush into, big pharma, we're not getting what we, at the end result, the best result. And, that's a big thing, and people start questioning, and yeah.
Thank you. That's so, I'm all for supporting your cause. So well done.
So you need to adopt dogs and put your bunnies aside, so I will come over and then help them. Just
we'll drive up, or we'll send you down. It's not a problem. We're definitely, yeah. It's just of course I would, offer this to my fur babies.
Yeah, no, it's like I say, if you want a massage, there's a other thing they call T-touch. It's a sort of like in between the eyes. You do it clockwise and circular motion, you'll see that they will start relaxing as well. They really enjoy it. Or at the back of the neck, like humans, especially, I don't know a bunny, but in the back there was a knob. It's called the C1. And if you just do circular motions, I promise you, if you do it softly and gently, not like pushing it, after a while, if they really enjoy it, they will fall asleep.
That's probably a really good tip to give people during the fireworks.
Yeah. Another thing that I would also from fireworks is that lavender, to your point, it's just diluted with water and then put it onto a little blanket or whatever, and then so they can smell, because it's a component of relaxation as well. So it helps for humans, so one is for dogs.
It's good preventative measures people can take.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is also you can do like a wrap with your towel. Yeah, I should maybe put it on my I did on my Instagram, but I can put it onto my website as well.
Yeah. So can you let people know how can they contact you, where can they find you, and also where exactly are you located?
So yeah, firstly, where they can find me is on my website is wagwellness.com.au. My contact details is on the website. I am based in the Central Coast, so I do the whole Central Coast. But if you're really in Sydney, I'm willing to come up and come and help. I think the more people I can work with, the better. And yeah, I think it's important that if you just reach out to me, you've got any questions, please do so. My email address is actually wagwellness.au@gmail.com. So yeah, please feel free to ask me questions. Yeah, and we can always have a call and have a further discussion as well.
So good. Thank you so much for your time, Adele. This has been great conversating with you, learning so much from you, and just seeing the vision, because it's we're on the brink of revolution, as I said, and it's just exciting times ahead.
No, absolutely. And it's cool to see that transition, that more people getting are open to it and the changes. And yeah, I think we're on the brink. We just need to push through and make a big impact going forward.
Sure. Now, I've started a new tradition on my podcast this year where the previous interviewer asks a question for the next guest without knowing who they are, and then you have to come up with a question for my next guest.
Okay.
So the question for you is, what are the ways that you meditate? What are the ways that it's just so fitting that you happen to be the next guest with this question?
Yeah, so how I do the meditation is that, funny enough, at night, when I get into bed, just close my eyes and have that stillness where there's no disturbance from TV, mobile phones, anything. It's just quietness. And it's my time. And that's why I take time out and just sit and reflect as well, before I meditate, because I think it's important. What are you grateful for? We usually forget before we meditate, what are we grateful for? And then go into meditation so we can just, have fun and be peaceful. And that sounds weird, but yeah, that peaceful perspective is quite important.
Yes.
Now, question. Ooh, now
I
I have to think. Yeah, I think what I would ask for the particular person as well, it's based on this, is that when you focus on gratitude, what is your biggest impact that you felt when you look at gratitude? And I think the second thing I allude to is that what do you do to ensure that you look at things that you're grateful for?
Perfect. That's so beautifully said, beautifully asked, and I can't wait to hear the answer. Stay tuned.
I definitely will.
Thank you again. This has been great. I'll pop all of Adele's details below so you can follow along and watch the journey evolve. And please make sure you reach out. And more importantly, tell your friends. If you've got a dog lover, dog owner friends, then please share this with them. The more awareness we can get onto this topic, the better our world will be.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you as well for the opportunity for this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Adele. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wherever you're listening from, if you can give us a review and a 5-star rating, that would be so helpful in supporting this podcast. If this lights you up and inspires you, then please make sure you share this episode and reach out to me and let me know. I am beyond grateful and so blessed to call this work. Together, we learn, grow, and evolve. Staying anchored in your heart means staying anchored to your humanity. All my love, Natasha.